Years ago, I saw a TV commercial which said, small is powerful, small is a revolution. And that's what these so-called smaller teams are doing to this World Cup. They've been the top story, two very big names on Cricbuzz Live. My name is Manish Batavia, but the big ones are here. They bring in the mojo because they are the rojo of Cricbuzz Live. Ro and Joe, how are you doing?
Wow. Wow, I like that. But when you started with that small thing, I thought you were going to reference me over here. Small.
So you are badi hasti, sir.
Nahi, mere bhai. I thought he was going to go, a little jab, left hand, body blow to the height.
But small teams have been the flavor, haven't they?
They have been the flavor because, look, it's, when you look at, I wouldn't call them small teams. Let's, associate member countries. Sure. There's no expectation from them.
Yeah.
Why have they still been the flavor even though they've lost? Right? They haven't really won a game.
Yeah.
But yet we're talking about them because there are certain games which have gone close where they could have won. But then you look at a team like Nepal. We were speaking about this off air. A team like Nepal, which took England really close, should have won the game. Ended up losing the game. Showed a lot of courage, a lot of gumption, a lot of ability, and then you go and lose to Italy by 10 wickets. Yeah. Right now, if you want to make that next step as an associate country, you've got to be best in class at your level.
Yeah.
So while you're taking England close, you should be that 10-wicket victory should have been for Nepal, not Italy.
Yeah.
That's when people will say, okay, listen, these guys need a chance. They've taken England close. They're better than whoever else they're playing with. We need to do something to support them.
Yeah.
That's where it is.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No. So I think that's it. A lot of countries are showing a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And that's heartening to see. I think one of the reasons of having a 20-team World Cup is to see what kind of talent is out there and bring that to the eyes of the world. Like, look, we've got teams like Namibia, teams like Italy, teams like Canada. This is the talent that they have. And then what can the world and what can ICC and the powers that be do to help cricket improve in these countries?
Joy, there was, at one point in world cricket, there was this conversation, there were two divided opinions. Should World Cups only be played between the big teams? Some said, no, we must have more teams playing. This is a 20-team World Cup. Results aside, what we've seen from these so-called smaller teams, and I hate the word minnow, what we've seen from these teams is that there is enough and more justification to have not just 20 teams, but maybe more going forward in the future, because they do bring in their own flavor and their own stories.
Absolutely. See, the cricket, when we talk about test cricket, and it's great, and people talk about it, that this is the ultimate form of cricket, it's played in 10 countries, because you cannot play in more than that 10 or 11 countries now. Because the fact of it is that the format does not allow you 5 days of cricket, who's going to get there, who's going to do. So what's happened is when you made the game smaller, you've also made it more accessible to many more countries. Yeah. And countries which were never serious about cricket, because even the ODI version was full day, suddenly this format becomes big. The other thing that has made a huge difference, and we talk about it with respect to domestic players, which is that why has Indian domestic players also increased? Because suddenly the IPL gives an opportunity for a Ranji level guy to face Brett Lee and Dale Steyn in the nets.
Yeah. Or
even an Ajanta Mendes or a Sunil Narayan. Now what happens therefore is you're getting the best coaching, really top level coaches from around the world are coming, physios, trainers, technical experts. They're all coming from around the world. Now the same thing is now happening to the associate countries as well. Not just because of the IPL, but because of the millions of leagues thousands of leagues that are being played around the world. So if you see somebody at the IL T20, you're getting a player in the IL T20 could be from the US, but he's playing with players from Australia, he's playing for players from Pakistan.
Shayan Jahangir, who's going to be playing from US, he's someone who, again, like you said, IL 20 playing in different leagues and improving because of that.
So that's what's happened. They are also now getting many more opportunities. Before this, associate nations, would get a chance once every 4 years to play top level opposition. Yeah. Now they're playing it every year in leagues around the world. And that's the difference. Therefore, they're that less scared. They're still not, I think he's caught it wrong, they're still not consistent. What's happening is one day they're really good. And against England, you think they'd almost get across the line? They're losing 10 wickets to Australia? To Italy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that needs to stabilize now for them.
And these performances also tend to excite a lot of bona fide legends in world cricket. We saw how Dale Steyn tweeted offering to help Nepal. So it's, in a sense, regardless of nationalities or loyalties, everybody wants to come together, rally around these smaller teams, and it only augurs well for our sport in the future.
Yeah, because we all want want the sport to grow, the game to grow. Be, as Joy said, right now it's a 10-country sport. We want it to become a 15, 20, 25, 30 country sport. So what you will see is a lot of, like you said, a lot of superstars, ex-superstars getting excited by, by seeing talent which is there across the world. It could be the talent of one person in a team, it could be a collective performance from the team, but that makes you sit up and notice and say, oh, wow, you remember what XYZ did in that game? And, going forward, it's like, look, in my opinion, and this is only me, my memories of cricket from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s are very clear. My memories of what's happened in the last 5 years in cricket is it's a blur because there's so much of cricket.
Yeah.
But even in that, there will be certain performances that will stand out, which have been, like you said, from the smaller countries. Not smaller countries, but smaller teams.
Relatively, yeah.
Or, underdog performance.
Yeah.
That you look back and say, wow, do you remember that innings that X played against Australia, against India? Oh, how good was that?
Yeah.
So that is the kind of, memories that will now be formed for me going forward in the next 10 years. Is countries like, we'll talk about Italy beating, Nepal by 10 wickets.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, but before the tournament started, one of Italy's absolute football superstars sent them a video, Christian Vieri. Now, Christian Vieri, growing up, he grew up in Australia. His favorite sportsman was Alan Border.
Yeah.
And one of his favorite sports was cricket. So he's completely into cricket. So he knew what what cricket's about. So he sent them. And for Italians, that must have been such a huge boost, And even for Christian Vieri right now, you were thinking, wow, we've got a 10-wicket win in the World Cup. So
and the coach also said that he believes they will get front page exposure, and why not? Because world cricket does need more stories. We might get
also because they've won more World Cup matches
than the
football teams since 2006. So yeah.
Right, we've got another exciting game coming up from Chennai. The Chepauk will see two newer teams who we've seen a fair bit of over the last couple of years. The USA were at that last World Cup. They beat Pakistan. They're back again. This time they're playing against the Netherlands in Chepauk. Update from Chepauk is that the Netherlands have won the toss and they have chosen to bowl. Now, we spoke about how these World Cups, these ICC events are a bit of a blessing, but we had to talk about another blessing. That's from Zimbabwe. Blessing Mozarabani gave Australia not just a scare, but a scar that they will take a while to recover from. A result that does qualify as an upset, Joy. Zimbabwe beating Australia. How big is that? And what an incredible result. It's a pity that this was a morning game, though.
Yeah, pity it was a morning game. But see, what is interesting about this result is not that Zimbabwe beat Australia. It's the way they beat them.
Yeah.
They beat them easy. They beat them, they smashed them. If you look at it in that sense, they did it very, very easily. And that is something that you don't see very often. I think it's the quality of performance that you've seen. And I think Zimbabwe have been a dangerous team in T20 cricket for a while. I mean, the likes of Sikandar Raza, I don't know, for some reason Sikandar Raza is another of those players who never does well in the IPL. He tears up leagues around the world. He's probably one of the best T20 players around, doesn't get a chance. Blessing similarly, I mean, I think he got picked once for an IPL team. Really, his bouncer, his pace, the kind of height he generates, he's always been a handful. But for them to get the stage and to do it so comprehensively, and now that group is wide open. Australia, Sri Lanka is a very, very big game now.
The RCB fan in my ears, the producer who is a crazy RCB fan, tells me he was with RCB when they won the title. So Mozarabani was with the RCB last year. Now, Rohan, it's so good to see Zimbabwe do this, because in India especially, when Zimbabwe beats Australia, there's more belief in the Indian team. You know why?
Yeah, because whenever Zimbabwe is beaten Australia, India have gone on to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
So it's a good omen.
Yeah.
But again, it's also, you look back at Zimbabwe as a nation, as a cricketing nation. They were an extremely strong side in the late 90s and early 2000s.
The Houghtons and the Flowers.
Houghtons, the Flowers, Andy Blignott, Ray Price.
Neil Johnson and so on.
Neil Johnson, they had some unbelievable cricketers. And then obviously, the country...
Then the previous generation also, the Currans, the Fletchers, that generation also was a fantastic team.
And Dave Houghton, I remember in the 1987 World Cup, got a big 100, 140 or 150.
141.
141, and then he took over an excellent catch. Yeah. And I think he's a double international. I think
He's
he's played
also hockey.
hockey.
He's
I think
plays hockey as well.
so they've had that kind of sporting, and we all grew up watching that and thinking, wow, amazing. So it's good to see Zimbabwe getting a big performance in the World Cup once again. Excuse me, and beating Australia. Like you said, good omen for us as well.
Yep, Blessing Muzarabani got 4 wickets, Brad Evans got 3, and take a look at those numbers. Terrific economy, he kept running in and bowling hard, and clearly he knows that IPL scouts are watching, scouts from across leagues are watching. Augurs well at a much larger level for, not just for the player, but for the team as well. And what about Australia then?
I think Australia, this tournament you're looking at, they don't have that core. Secondly, I don't think this is also their strongest, the kind of team they have, this is not the surfaces that they'll really enjoy. And now I think, the odds are against them, the injuries. I feel Pat Cummins is much more to the team than just being a player. Because he's not their best T20 player by a mile. But the leadership and what he brings to them, the calm he brings to that dressing room is a very different feel. So I think this Australia team is a bit lost. I can't really make out who the leader is out there. And I think they'll bounce back because they're a tough set of guys. They'll bounce back against Sri Lanka. But it'll be interesting to see how they go from there on.
How does the points table look like after this Australia loss? The games against Sri Lanka, Rohan, become extremely crucial. Sri Lanka have got 2-2. Remember, they're playing at home. Zimbabwe very much there in the race as well. It'll be a shocker if Australia can't go through to the Super 8s.
Yeah, it will be. Because, it is Australia after all. And Australia, no matter what kind of form they are in coming into an ICC tournament, they'll always be one of the favourites. It's a bit like Germany in football. Doesn't matter what's happening before. Once the tournament starts, they're right up there.
Yeah.
So if they don't qualify, it'll be a bit of a shocker. But I expect them to qualify.
Yeah.
I think this is, one of those games where you think, okay, you know what? Wake up call. We need to get our act together. We can't take anything lightly. The Sri Lanka game, I think, will be crucial. I think that will be extremely crucial. That's the game.
Yeah.
Because again, we spoke about the inconsistency of associate member countries. I'm not saying Zimbabwe isn't, but for Zimbabwe to beat Sri Lanka, they'll again have to bring their A game to the table, and Sri Lanka will have to be below par.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the case when Australia take on Sri Lanka. Again, if Australia bring their A game to the table against whoever, they're in with a shout. So the chances of Australia beating Sri Lanka are 50-50, say?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's in the conditions and everything. But the chances of Zimbabwe beating Sri Lanka are still heavily loaded in Sri Lanka's favour that Sri Lanka will win the game.
Australia were in a similar situation at the 2023 World Cup, and it took a mad innings from Maxwell to get them back on track. So never count the Aussies out, but they will be playing without Mitchell Marsh, who's unfortunately had to go home. So
yeah, and that's what it's been that kind of tournament. Just before, the number of players they've lost, they lost their captain before the tournament, then they lost Hazelwood coming here, then they've lost Mitch Marsh. So it's been that sort of a thing. But he said something very true that Australia never count them out. Yeah. They'll come together and they have enough good players. It's not that they have quality players. It's just that I don't think they've found themselves as a side as yet.
Yeah.
They're not a unit as Australians are known to be.
Yeah.
And if that happens, they get one spark, one match, they light it, one guy gets going, one Maxwell does a crazy innings and it's over. Then they're a different team totally.
Right, Steve Smith will be joining the Australia squad to replace the injured Mitchell Marsh. Let's come back to USA versus Netherlands at the Chepauk. USA pushed India, couldn't win. Netherlands came very close to beating Pakistan, couldn't win. This is a contest between two teams who could give us a game to remember. The toss has happened. Netherlands have won the toss and they've chosen to bowl first. Let's take a look at the 11th to see if they have made any changes. Remember, these are teams that come in to play on a track that used to help spinners traditionally, but after being relayed, this surface hasn't really shown much help for the spinners. Let's take a look at the 11s. Let's have Netherlands first up. In fact, let's take a look at the Netherlands 11 to see if they have made any changes. Aryan Dutt, very much an impressive bowler, but Kyle Klein comes in. Joy, is there a player that you think this team revolves around?
Yeah, look, my point is that this is a batting team. It's Dilleed's all-round performances, and then you look at very experienced bats. Scott Edwards is like a veteran cricketer. This one gives them, Max O'Dowd gives them a lot of experience up front. And they are always a very, very decent team. They always perform to a certain level. You know, so one other name I want to give up there, Van Merwe. I mean, he has played World Cup cricket for South Africa. He has played in Champions League. He has played for the RCB. He has played for Champions League. He's no longer, he used to be a dangerous bat as well. Yeah. He's no longer the bat he is, but at 41, he's still a very wily bowler. So he and Aryan Dutt are two guys who hold the key for them. Of course, this surface is not the kind of surface that used to be a Chennai surface. I mean, Dhoni will be looking at this and wondering, you know, what happened to this surface. But they are keys for me.
And they also look at Bas de Leede as well for performances with the bat, the ball, the field.
Yeah,
he is their Swiss knife, isn't he?
Yeah, so again, you know, we spoke about this earlier in the show, that you look at certain players from associate member country and they make you sit up and notice. And he's one of them. Yeah. As you said, in all three departments of the game, you know, what he brings to the table for the Netherlands, they'll be relying heavily on him as they have in the past. And if he can put up a good performance, I think this is going to be a really close contest.
I want to add that, you know, where does all of New Zealand cricket really is the de Leede for the wrong time. You know, Tim Lee de Leede and Bas de Leede. You know how his father started off, how they started off in all this, okay? The grandfather, Frans de Leede, went to England to study, okay? That's where his sort of liked the English, then came back. They're all from the Netherlands. And then the lady that he married, I mean, de Leede's grandmother, was working in a cricket club. And so they decided to impress her and join a cricket club as well.
Wow.
And that's where he started playing cricket. Tim Leede goes on to play for the Netherlands. His son goes on to play. There's another family member, I think Babette, who's a cousin. She's also playing for the Netherlands. So basically, it all started with one man's love.
Wow. What a story.
It's a great story because, look, you know, we were talking about this, like how countries have gone for war over women. Helen of Troy. This is
absolutely better to go
cricket.
For sport than for law.
Yeah, so 100%. So
and this is Cricbuzz. This is the only place where you get such stories. But Bas de Leede, again, not only about cricketing inheritance. He's also got a lot of modern skill as well. He's clearly worked on his craft.
No, absolutely. He's one of the top players. And if you look at his performances in leagues around, again, Bas is a guy who plays a lot of places all around. And just look at that record. I mean, batting average of 31. See, the only thing that you'll see a problem with, the bowling is excellent. Yeah. Economy of 7.31 is very decent for the kind of overs that he bowls. Strike rate is a problem with associate countries. And one of the problems is perhaps, I think about it, it's the quality of the bats, whether they get. Secondly, they don't seem to be used to what happens is they play on much smaller grounds. When they are practicing most of their matches on smaller grounds. So when they move to larger grounds, their ability to clear grounds becomes much tougher.
You know, this is such a great point you made because this is what I experienced with Bengal cricket when I went to Bengal. The Bengal club games back then were played on such small grounds that if you had to score 100, you had to basically bat for about 2 hours because it was either 1 or 4. Okay, you weren't running 2s and 3s, it was 1 or 4. So then when you moved on to the bigger stage and the bigger grounds and playing at Eden Gardens, at the end of 2 hours, you were batting on 25. And a lot of players didn't have that sort of ability to think, oh, why am I on 25 and not on 100 or not on 75, 80? And your ability to concentrate for longer periods of time in order to get to that 100 wasn't developed at club level. So it's a great point about, you know, the size of grounds that you bat on.
So if you check, you should see that because associate nations play each other, you should think that their strike rate should therefore be also the same.
Yeah.
It's not. You'll see the average strike rate go between 106 to 125, 130. It's not the 150s, 140, 150, 160s.
Also, do you think, Joy, it could be because like in associate member countries, you find that there might be only 2 or 3 batters who the team revolves around and they feel
they have to be more careful.
They've got to be slightly more careful because look, if we get out, that's done.
Yeah,
I think that's also a very fair point but also what happens as a result is these cricketers become very complete cricketers. So a great example is Bas de Leede. Before that, his father Tim de Leede. In the middle, Ryan Tendulkar, who's India's
now part of the Indian
yeah. So he's also another player like that. They were Swiss knives. They are guys who are expected to do everything. And in fact, Tendulkar still has, I think, the second highest average in ODI cricket, just above Virat Kohli. And you know whose is the highest? He's a player who could be playing today, Milind Kumar of the US.
Is he in the 11? Let's take a look at the USA playing 11 for this game against the Netherlands.
He is in the
Yes,
11.
he's very much there. 3 changes, but the big one is the return of Ali Khan Joy. They struggled in the death overs against India at the Wankhede. Now his return clearly adds a lot more solidity to this American bowling lineup.
Huge. I think, look, that's a really good lineup because, Sai Teja was their standout performer before the World Cup. He did really well. He did well in the warm-up match. One match he did badly against India and they dropped him. So Sai Teja coming back is big. Ali Khan returning is really big because they had nobody to bowl the death overs from one side. So I think that's great. And Kenjige is a left-arm spinner. Very interesting background. Born in the USA, comes back to study in India, studies at the Lawrence School, Lovedale, does everything, goes back to study out there, study in America for his graduate studies, and then plays for the US.
And the American team is also sort of very humbly, very sweetly reached out to the ICC saying, if we get more support, more infrastructure support, there is a lot of talent in these associate nations. Now, 3 changes to that lineup. Saurav Netravalkar not playing. 3 changes, as I said, Rohan. Clearly, USA mean business because I'm checking on the Cricbuzz commentary section. There is no news on any injuries. So these are...
We believe you on the Cricbuzz section. You don't have to show everyone like that.
Just saying. Self-plug.
We believe you. There's enough trust generated.
It's good to see that these teams sort of going all out and wanting to feel
also,
the best.
and I agree with you. I mean, Saurav not being there, Saurav has been traditionally their new ball bowler. I think their problem has been that they could not contain bowlers to the death. So I think somewhere they felt this surface did not give them enough. They went in with the extra spinner. So what they clearly think this pitch is going to turn a lot more than the previous it has in the previous games.
Andres Goose was a player that was expected to do well in the absence of Aaron George. Also left out for this game. He had to come good. 2 games, they saw enough and they said, okay, we're going to make a change. It just hasn't worked. He's played a lot of T20 cricket across the world.
And he is an extremely explosive bat. So it's I'm sure it's a call that they haven't taken lightly. It's a call that they would have debated upon and spoken about in team meetings a lot. Because he is a match winner on his day. There's absolutely no doubt about that. When you look at that...
Can we look at this team again?
When you look at that 11, they have in their batting department, they've got, in my opinion, a lot of ability. As Joy said, Milind Kumar's got the highest average. But you look at Shayan Jahangir, and I mentioned him earlier in the show, he is, again, an exceptional player. Shubham Ranjane has the ability to play big shots towards the end. Sai Teja, again, he's someone who failed in one match and then was dropped. And I'm not sure, again, that's the right decision because he was USA's most consistent player. And what you want to do is give players like that confidence, saying that, listen, now in this game, you don't want him thinking, what, if I have a failure now, am I going to get dropped again? They've got to be playing with a little bit of freedom because the times that you will do well is when you're playing with that freedom. When there's no fear and you're going in with the mindset that, look, it's a win-win situation. There's less pressure on us. We win, we do well. Everyone will be singing our praises. That's what you want. So you want to be going out onto that pitch with no fear, no doubt, just a complete clarity in your head that this is what I've got to do. This is my job. This is my task. And this is how I'm going to complete it.
First ball coming up in a few minutes from now, but in about a month and a half from now, we will see the start of IPL 2026. And straight away, there is news. Rajasthan Royals have picked Riyan Parag as their captain for the upcoming IPL. I'm going to go to Joy for his first reactions on that.
I think it's fantastic. Last year you had 2 young bulls out there looking for their place. You've got Red Bull over here.
They had 2 bulls, we've got Red Bull.
They've also got 3 bulls.
And I think Riyan Parag, if I'm not mistaken, is a Red Bull athlete.
He's a Red Bull.
I think he's a Red Bull athlete. So it's, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
They had Jaiswal. They had Jadeja as the other options as well.
Yeah. No, I don't think Jadeja. Jadeja, I think, is the stage of his career is at a time where I think they're looking at it, and I think the experiment with CSK also didn't work with Jadeja. So it was clearly between these 2. They've gone with the player who's got, I think, what Rohan was talking about when we were in the dressing room before this, more captaincy experience. And I think what they're probably looking at is saying that Jaiswal, your time will come. He's what? Jaiswal is now 21, 22 years old?
No, more.
No, I think Jaiswal is a couple of years younger to Parag.
23-ish maybe. Yeah.
He's younger than Parag.
Yeah. See, Jaiswal played in the 2020 Under-19 World Cup. It's
Correct.
2026, so he must be 24, 25 now.
24, 25. Yeah, I think, and Parag would be just played in 2019.
Yes.
He played the same year as Prithvi and Shubman and all.
So clearly RR thinking of the long-term future, but what about Jaiswal? I'm sure, because he's made his interest in wanting to be a leader very obvious. He's spoken about wanting to lead.
Yeah, and as he should, because, he is someone who is an all-format player for me.
Sure.
We've seen that in, his performances in the T20 version in the IPL. He hasn't got those many opportunities at the international level. We know what he's doing at the test level. His numbers are phenomenal. He's an all-format player. And again, he seems like the kind of player where I think responsibility will bring out even more from him. Sure. There's some people who will, cower under the responsibility. It doesn't bring out the best in him, but I think with Jaiswal, with Yashasvi, it'll enhance his performance. So I think, and the good sign is, always a good sign is that people wanting to take that responsibility, wanting to be a leader, wanting to captain. Sometimes they just thrust upon you and you don't know how to react, what to do, and you're learning along the way. But when you want it, you're eager. That's always a good sign. So look, knowing Yashasvi, the very little that I do know of him, while he might be disappointed, there's no doubt that he will be supporting Riyan in every possible way to make sure that the Royals sort of, do as well as they can in the IPL.
Apparently he sent a message across to Riyan Parag saying, "Bhai, is baar IPL jeette hain." But Kumar Sangakkara's job perhaps tougher, trickier, because he's got two young players, two players with flair, one a proven international talent who wanted to be captain, isn't captain. How does he go about managing this dynamic between the two?
I think the buy-in must have happened. If you hear the decision has come fairly late. I mean, they haven't announced in the auction. It's just a month before the tournament. So they must have spoken to these guys, sat them down, spoken. He must have understood. Unless he totally bought into it, I don't think they would have done it. They wouldn't have forced it on Yashasvi. They wouldn't have said, you have to do it. They would have said, look, think about it, 2 years, 3 years. They would have spent time knowing Sangakkar for the guy he will. What I'd say about Yashasvi is that you may say, why is he so impatient? His time will come. But dude, in India, people don't get to play for India by being patient. They get to play for India by being more determined, more impatient. More hustle than anyone else. Because it's the toughest thing in India is to be a batter for India. To get through at state level, under-19 state level. So he's always going to be, I can do it. Captain, kal bana do, main banaunga. So you have to handle him in a particular way. I think they would have done it.
2 years to go before the mega auction. That's his only escape window, if I may use those words. If he has to throw his hat into the ring, maybe go to another team, but that's still 2 years away. So
2 years away, 2 years, there are lots of things can happen. Yeah. They could win the title. They couldn't do well. The captaincy could change. Anything could happen in 2 years. 2 years in the IPL is like it's a lifetime.
It's an eternity. But for Riyan as well, Rohan, it's a big test being able to get Yashasvi on the same page as him. He also has the wisdom of Jadeja to tap into, right?
Yeah, look, I think, again, Riyan has that captaincy experience. He's captained Assam. He knows what it is. I think for Yashasvi, for his first captaincy assignment to be the IPL would have been, I'm not saying a bridge too far, but it would have been an extremely hard job. Because look, when you're captaining at, say, the Ranji Trophy level or, state level, all you're doing is going out there and captaining. Mid off here, long off there, X come to bowl, Y come to bowl. In the IPL, your responsibilities are even off the field. It's not just on the field that you've got to, you're captain. Your responsibilities, and Joy will tell you more, as captain of the franchise with sponsor commitments and all of that, are tenfold. Yes. So for that to be your first experience,
it can be overwhelming.
It could be overwhelming. So maybe this is probably from Yashasvi's point of view also the right decision, sort of easing him into it while you're giving the captaincy to someone who's been part of the franchise for a really long time and who the franchise have shown a lot of faith in, over the years. Yeah. And he's repaid that faith over the last 2 years with his performances. And so look, Riyan knows Rajasthan Royals. He knows what it takes to be a part of the royal family, what is expected from the franchise.
He's even captained them in matches last year.
Yes, he's got that experience as well. So while yes, you think, okay, because Yashasvi is playing international cricket, you would think that, oh, he should be captain, but sometimes that's not the case. I mean, Saurav Ganguly played under me for Bengal when he was captain of India.
He was captain of India.
When he was captaining India, and I used to tell him, Dada.
Did you say Dada thoda left, thoda right?
Dada thoda.
That you would have gone and stood in the strips. You couldn't have sent it.
I used to tell Dada, I said, Dada, aap hi captain kar lo yaar. Because it's, when you come and you captain, you got to understand. With Saurav being captain, if he was captain of, this thing, it makes a big difference even with the umpiring and stuff.
Of course.
He's absolutely
With the umpiring, it makes a huge difference. With the umpiring for the India captain suddenly appealing this, that makes a big difference. It gives a big lift to everyone else who's in their Bengal team, who's playing over there. Because what you're trying to do then is you're trying to impress the India captain. Right?
Yeah.
And he's also switched on because he's also thinking about everything that's happening. So I was always hoping that when he comes back, he takes over the reins and he captains the side.
Should be a fun IPL. As captain, you also have to say the right things. Has he said the right thing when he was announced as captain? Let's take a look at what the young new captain of the Rajasthan Royals said. Apparently, the night before the World Cup warm-up game, played against the USA. I got a call from Manish Batavia, who's part of the management and the Sanghakara, and said, congratulations, you are the captain. And the nature of the tournament is such that everyone plays, and if someone doesn't play, it is natural for someone to drift away mid-season or the latter half of the season. That stuck with me, and I started immediately how do I get 25 people on the same page this year? He knows he has his work cut out, and he's got a month and a half to prepare, right? You have about 3 hours to prepare to answer the question to Joy Factor. Let's take a look at what Mr. Bhattacharjya has got for us today. Today's Joy Factor is...
Very short question.
If this list is... Yeah, go on.
In this list, if Dan Fletcher is first, Brendan Taylor is second, who's the third? That's it. Small, short, relevant question. The only hint I can give you is...
It's Zimbabwe connected.
I'll say current affairs is the answer. Okay, no more.
Go Google, go AI, do whatever. Send in your answers and we will give you the correct answer and the winner's name. At the end of our coverage, gentlemen, predictions. USA batting first. Fresh Chennai pitch. Not much help for spinners. Go on.
151.
174.
163. Lock it and join us on Cricbuzz Combox after 10 overs. Bye-bye.